What should we do to cultivate students' engagement? So we're assuming that we've started the class fairly sensibly and got people to somehow come together as a group. We've done some group forming exercises, which can be at various levels of depth depending on the situation. I'd like to give an example here. There was a girl who was mad keen, a girl from Italy, on beekeeping. The rest of the group were interested in various things, but her commitment to beekeeping and everything to do with bees was so powerful that people began to be really quite interested. So I thought, well, I think I can turn this into a beekeeper's class because of her relationship to the others. I got her to meet nearly all the beekeepers in the Canterbury and Faversham area, found books that she hadn't read on beekeeping, so she did some reading comprehension in an area that she was enthusiastic. And since she had a kind of outgoing personality, she actually began to turn that class into a specialized ESP class on beekeeping. But because people liked her, and because her enthusiasm was overflowing, I thought that was, it doesn't always happen. You don't always have somebody like that. But if you do have somebody like that, I think it's quite a good idea to go with them and, in a sense, make them the protagonist of the class. So that was a very strong way of keeping. And she brought a couple of beekeepers in, so that they had listening comprehension with ordinary natives, not teachers who in a way, often talk a kind of twisted form of English. There is a sort of EFLE's way of talking, where you carefully make sure that everybody understands every word. So that was one way of doing that. Another way, I mentioned a little earlier in this set of films, that I write regular letters to my students. And that meant that my own contact with them was manifestly powerful and useful in terms of education, in terms of reaching them. So in some cases, it was personal, especially with more with the women than with the men. But if I found a boy who definitely didn't want to talk about touchy-feely things, okay. If he was an expert on desalination in the valley of the Ebro in Spain, I became his student and asked him difficult questions and showed in a following letter that I had or hadn't understood what he said in the last letter, gone too technical. He became my teacher. That role reversal in the letters was often marvelous because it established something on an intellectual level, on a technical level, which was gripping for him. I remember once showing a letter from a Spanish economist to the man who at that time, Bill Shepherd, ran the Cambridge exams. That was a long time ago. And there was an 8-page letter from this economist. She was at kind of B1 level. And he said, this is a long letter. So I went off and brewed him some coffee. And when he was about on page 7, when I brought the coffee to him, and he said, looked up at me and said, this writer doesn't care at all about correction. She was just desperate to get you to understand her ideas. So in that particular situation, I was delighted, because this man spent his whole life thinking about correction in examination situations. And this woman was really trying to teach me something. So I hope this partly answers the question I was asked about keeping the interest and developing. It has to develop, because you can't keep it static. It has to grow.